Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the final session of our virtual November meeting, which will begin with the presentation of the Society's awards. We have 3 awards to give, and I will briefly introduce the introducer of each of these 3 major awards. I'll just remind you that for this virtual session, we have a closed caption option, which you'll find at the bottom of your Zoom screen, if you would like to avail yourself of that. So, in 1935, the APS established the John Frederick Lewis Award to recognize the best book or monograph published by the Society in a given year. The recipient of the 2019 John Frederick Lewis Award is Keith Marshall Jones III, in recognition of his book, John Lawrence, the Immigrant Founding Father America Never Knew. This is the first substantial study of a little-known immigrant to the New World who collaborated with Alexander Hamilton and James Madison in the creation of the American nation. Born in 1750 in Cornwall, he forged a legal career in New York. His association with Hamilton has obscured his contributions to the War for Independence and its Federalist aftermath. He helped Hamilton in the passage of the Treasury Secretary's transformative financial agenda, and together with Madison, converted the paper Constitution into the machinery of government in the vastly underappreciated First Federal Congress. This biography of John Lawrence, who survived until 1810, restores important missing pieces to our nation's founding narrative and exposes the Cornish emigre's remarkable ascent into Federalist America's governing inner circle. I am pleased to present the John Frederick Lewis Award to Keith Marshall Jones III, who will now accept it with some brief remarks.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. Actually, the award certificate just arrived moments ago and is hanging on the wall over my left shoulder and will not even be torn down when we sell this house. Anyway, I'm humbled and profoundly grateful to the officers and members of the Society for honoring me with the John Frederick Lewis Award. 3 years ago, Mary McDonald, the APS Publications Director, found my unsolicited manuscript in her inbox. It was the biography of a founding father no one ever heard of, from the historian no one ever heard of. Fortunately, APS is that rare publisher for whom promoting useful knowledge governs what to print. Mary understood that English-born New York soldier, lawyer, legislator, jurist John Lawrence was an important missing piece of our founding narrative. So thank you so much, Mary. Today, when many perceive government as a one-man show, Lawrence's legacy is more relevant than ever. Through his eyes, we see that American federalism was not a one-man band, despite the blockbuster musical Hamilton. Lawrence also reminds us that much of America's founding story was written by immigrants. For in 1800, Senate President pro tempore John Lawrence became the only foreign-born citizen ever to stand directly behind Vice President in line of presidential succession. So John Lawrence is a true recipient of the 2019 Lewis Award, and it's my honor simply to accept it in his place. Thank you, American Philosophical Society. The floor is yours, Linda.
You. The Carl Spencer Lashley Award was established in 1957 by a gift from Dr. Lashley, a member of the Society and a distinguished neuroscientist and neuropsychologist. His entire scientific life was spent in the study of behavior and its neural basis. Lashley's famous experiments on the brain mechanisms of learning, memory, and intelligence helped inaugurate the modern era of integrative neuroscience, and the Lashley Award recognizes innovative work that continues exploration in the field. Bill Newsom, chair of the Lashley Award Selection Committee, will now present the award.
Thank you, Linda. The 2020 Carl Spencer Lashley Award is awarded jointly to Vendrik Frywald and Doris Tsao in recognition of their groundbreaking discoveries of primate cortical areas that selectively encode visual information about faces and about the computational principles underlying face encoding in these areas and the implications of these discoveries for social cognition. In a technical tour de force, Winrich and Doris combined multiple techniques: functional magnetic resonance imaging, electrophysiological recording, and anatomical tracing to discover and characterize a set of patches or small areas in the primate visual cortex that selectively process information about faces. From lower to higher levels of this pathway, the visual stimulus preference of individual nerve cells shifts from a general preference for any kind of face to a preference for the faces of specific individuals, irrespective of the angle from which they are viewed. In subsequent independent work, Frywald explored the significance of this pathway for social cognition, and Tsao has performed elegant causal experiments to show that the face patches exert a major influence on face perception as measured behaviorally. The physiological sophistication, exquisite specificity, and computational coherence of this pathway provides some of the most elegant discoveries in modern behavioral neuroscience. Doris Tsao is a professor and director of the T&C Chen Center for Systems Neuroscience at Caltech. Vendrik Frywald is professor of neurosciences and behavior at the Rockefeller University. On behalf of the Lashley Award Committee, it is my great pleasure to present the 2020 Carl Spencer Lashley Award for pioneering work in the field of neuroscience to Doris Tsao and Vendrik Frywald. We will hear first from Dr. Tsao and then Dr. Frywald. Doris, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Bill. It's an incredible honor to receive this award from you, given how much you've inspired me every step of the way throughout my life as a scientist. I have to say, I'm a bit bashful about getting this award because I don't think we've discovered anything yet that lets us claim we've illuminated a deep philosophical question. Finding patches of cortex selected for faces or anything in the brain obviously provides limited insight. We have figured out something about what's happening inside these patches and the computations they're performing. One of my happiest moments was realizing the cells are literally doing linear algebra in a vector space whose points are faces. But I'd be the last person to claim this is an insight deserving of recognition from the American Philosophical Society. Instead, what this award represents to me is a very generous belief in future possibility, because I do think the face patch system of the macaque monkey can soon shed light on a bona fide philosophical mystery. And that is, how is a conscious visual percept constructed by neurons? Why do we experience the qualia of a face? I believe one part of the deepest mystery of the universe is within close reach, and that's the following. Why is our perception of the world so magically clear and consistent, even though the local sensory evidence is highly noisy and ambiguous? The most beautiful thing about the face patch system is that it is a system, a hierarchy of connected nodes. And this provides us a key to solve the great philosophical mystery of qualia. It lets us see the steps by which a coherent conscious percept is constructed by neurons, starting with messy sensory evidence. So I'd like to thank the American Philosophical Society and Bill for this incredible encouragement during these very early days, my amazing collaborators, students and postdocs for their creativity and dedication during this journey together, and Mother Nature for giving us the face patch system. And I hope our future work will provide more justification for this award and bring us closer to philosophy. Thank you.
Great, Doris, thank you. And Vendrik, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Receiving an award from a learned society with a depth of history, brilliance of membership, and cultural significance of the American Philosophical Society is one of the greatest honors anyone can receive. When I learned earlier this year that the Society had decided to bestow this honor on me, I was elated and deeply moved. One of my first impulses was an impossible one to realize: to share my joy with the 2005 awardee, my Rockefeller colleague, mentor, friend, and philosophy buddy, Bruce McEwen, who had died a few months earlier. Allow me to commemorate Bruce and also the 2016 awardee, the late Charles Gross, the giant on whose shoulders Doris and I stand. My most heartfelt thanks to Bill Newsom for his beautiful introduction, and I suspect his initiative for a nomination. There are many people I would like to thank, but there's one that I have to thank on this occasion, and that is Dr. Benjamin Franklin. It is for two reasons. First, for founding a philosophical society with the express purpose of, quote, promoting useful knowledge. I imagine he wrote this with a chuckle. At least he makes me chuckle at this motto, because it is so wonderfully fitting for the America that I love. I imagine what designation any of Franklin's contemporary philosophers in my homeland of Germany, Lessing, Mendelssohn, Wolf, would have given to a philosophical society, and I think it unlikely the promotion of useful knowledge would have even crossed their minds. And yet, without it, there would likely not be any philosophical society today awarding a prize to experimental neuroscientists trying to uncover the physical mechanisms of our minds. And second, and even more so, I would like to thank Dr. Franklin as a founding father of the American Republic, because without it, I would neither be here nor free. I hope we can keep it. I gladly and with my deepest thanks to the society accept the 2020 Carl Spencer Lechley Award.
Thank you, Winrich and Doris, for such fabulous comments from two very deserving awardees. And back to you, Linda.
Thank you very much. I hope to hear more about your work, maybe at one of our actual in-person meetings coming up. I'm very fascinated. Established in 1888, the Henry M. Phillips Prize in Jurisprudence is awarded in recognition of outstanding lifetime contributions in the field of jurisprudence and important publications which illustrate that accomplishment. In the 125 years since its inception, the Society has bestowed this prize only 26 times. This year, the prize is awarded to Owen M. Fiss. The citation reads, in recognition of his lifetime of contributions to American law and jurisprudence, most especially his inspirational interpretations of legal equality in terms of overcoming and resisting social stratification, his path-breaking explication of how courts might realize constitutional values in the real world of governmental institutions, his global writings illuminating human rights as ideals rooted in both universal principles and national self-determination, his mentorship of generations of legal scholars, both in the United States and abroad, and his abiding faith in the power of law to light our way toward a just future, unquote. In the course of his long, productive, and influential career, Owen Fiss has been a deep student of civil procedure, teaching the American legal system about judicial remedies addressing systemic wrongs, as well as the essentials of public law adjudication. He led the way in proposing revolutionary new understandings of the theory and application of anti-discrimination law, advocating that it become an instrument for the removal of structural conditions of inequality. He's been a profound student of the war on terror, illuminating how it might be brought to heel by the values of the rule of law. He's been a force for legal reform throughout Latin America. He's proposed an influential reinterpretation of the First Amendment that emphasizes the social functions of speech in a democracy. He's authored important reinterpretations of American constitutional history. It's my great and deeply personal pleasure to present the Henry M. Phillips Prize in Jurisprudence in recognition of outstanding lifetime contributions to Owen Fiss. Owen, over to you.
On May 17, 1954, the Supreme Court of the United States condemned segregated education and the racial caste system of which it was part. In so doing, the court set in motion an ambitious, all-encompassing reform program that came to be known as the Second Reconstruction. Then, over the next 2 decades, it infused that reform program with energy and vision. The court sustained sweeping decrees aimed at desegregating schools and other public institutions. It protected the protest of the civil rights movement. and it facilitated, maybe even invited, the participation of the political branches of the federal government in this extraordinary endeavor. As Linda just indicated, there are many facets to my professional life. At the core, however, is the sustained effort to understand and to defend the legitimacy of the Brown decision and the Second Reconstruction. In honoring me, you are honoring this scholarly project and also acknowledging the transcendent significance of it for the nation. You are honoring the countless lawyers, some in the academy, some in the profession, some on the bench, who have labored endlessly and sometimes heroically to make the constitutional promise of equality a living reality. I have loved my work and I'm proud of it. I'm also proud of the changes that I have seen over my lifetime in the folkways of the nation. I must also acknowledge, however, that the task is unfinished. We have failed to realize the truest and most profound ambitions of the Second Reconstruction: to free this country of the racial caste system and all its vestiges, to form a more perfect union. Many factors, some far beyond the law, account for the persistence of caste. And yet we must not ignore the responsibility of the Supreme Court for this sorry state of affairs. Once the catalyst and then the engine of the Second Reconstruction, the Supreme Court, ever since the mid-1970s and continuing to the present day, has taken upon itself the task of policing and limiting the reform measures initiated now and then by Congress and the President, by state and local governments, and most of all, by the institutions of civil society, which include the great universities of this nation. The events of last spring, the killing of George Floyd on the streets of Minneapolis, and the massive demonstrations that killing sparked throughout the nation, attest to the unfinished nature of the project that began in 1954. In proclaiming that Black Lives Matter and in denouncing systemic racism, the demonstrators were urging us to look beyond the individual dynamics that might have accounted for the death of George Floyd, and to confront the most brutal consequence of caste, discounting the worth and dignity of those who have been turned into the underclass. So I am especially grateful to the Society for awarding me the Phillips Prize at this particular moment in American history. In recognizing my scholarship and in recognizing my teaching, you are defining the challenge that now awaits the next generation of lawyers. Might you, dear Society, even be calling for a third Reconstruction?
Oh, thank you very much. When the Phillips Prize Committee met last winter and decided to give you this award, obviously we had no idea what was in store for the country, but we knew that we were giving it to somebody who embodies the deepest values that you just expressed. So thank you very much. Congratulations to all the award recipients, and thanks to the members of the society who serve on the award selection committees.